Welcome back. This is the Protecting the Legal Rights of Artists and Designers class, and this video is going to be a quick run through of the answers for the Graphic Artist Guild's reading assignment on contracts. We're going to talk about the assignment, and I'm going to give you my take on what I call the dirty tricks that you need to watch out for. Alright, so this is actually the cover for the Graphic Artist Guild's handbook and pricing guide. We have this in the CCAD library. If you become a member of the GAG, or the Graphic Artist Guild, you will actually get the latest copy of this, and for every year that you're a member, you'll actually receive an updated copy. They review and update these on an annual basis, and it's a good resource to have. In the excerpt in the chapter that we have, the GAG discusses the importance of contracts for artists, both from a creative aspect as well as a business aspect. They talk about using contracts as a business tool and provide good explanations and examples to learn from. We've got a set of 10 questions to accompany the reading assignment that we're going to review. The first question, what do contracts protect? There are a lot of different answers that you can pull from the text. Protect both the artist and the client, define the working relationship, set expectations. They protect both the artist and the client, their rights, their interests, their expectations, and their property. A good contract helps everyone understand and provides guidance and protection. Moving to the second question, in defining a relationship, what does a contract avoid? A good contract, helps avoid misunderstandings. A great old friend of mine used to say, don't give instructions that can be understood, give instructions that can't be misunderstood. Avoiding those potential misunderstandings by providing detail and clarity is what a good contract should do. Alright, question 3. When is the time to understand and agree to the terms of a contract? That really should say best time. The best time to agree to terms is before starting work, before starting a job. Before you begin to invest time, energy, and effort, before you create an opportunity for misunderstanding. Now, you're going to have clients and potential clients try to get you to start immediately, and you may feel the urge to get a head start on a client's project, but wait. Wait. Get the client to agree to terms so you don't have remorse later. Before you start is when you have the most negotiating power. It's at the beginning when you have smiles and handshakes and everybody is happy. It's the best time to set the terms. Next question, what are the 7 basic types of contracts? When can you get your terms into the agreement? We will cover the 7 basic types of contracts, and then I will talk about dirty tricks that you need to watch for. Alright, 7 basic types of contracts. The oral agreement, what I like to call the handshake or the spoken contract. It's taking somebody at their word, and with a spoken contract, usually you have the essential terms like the description of the work, the timeline, where work is going to be purposed or used, the right to reproduce the work, and compensation and payment. You usually cover the basics with that. Next would be a letter of agreement or engagement. Attorneys like to say this is memorializing. You're putting it in writing. After the fact, you go back and you write down the terms in that letter of what you discussed. Next would be the purchase order, sometimes referred to, a lot of times referred to as the PO. And it looks like an invoice, and it's used mainly as an organizing tool for companies. It acts kind of like a stamp to identify the work that the artist is doing. Then there's a working contract. This is really what everybody expects with a contract, a traditional contract. Defines terms and responsibilities. The best contracts are simple, clear, concise. You've got a post-project contract. Usually that takes the form of an invoice or a check. A boilerplate contract, the author also talks about, and that is like a fill-in-the-blank, pre-made agreement with terms that are already set and typically are general. It's a one-size-fits-all that can be tailored, and it sets general terms and expectations. And then author also talks about the retainer agreement as a basic type of contract. This commits the client and the artist to a work schedule and a payment schedule. There's usually a deposit or a prepayment that's made by the client. It can be framed as for a time period or for a specific task or project. And usually if there's a deposit that's paid, there's some sort of discount for paying in advance, or there's some guarantee by the artist to be available to the client. Okay, in this framework of the 7 types of contracts, let's talk about dirty tricks where people try to change or modify the terms of the agreement. It's a matter of timing, and as a matter of timing, it's important to watch for additional terms that can sneak into a contract. All right, dirty tricks, timing, getting different terms in. You're going to hear me say over and over again, pay attention. When you see these types of documents appear, you want to look at them. Don't just file them away or throw them away. Take a look, because there might be additional terms that will change what you think of, that will change the agreement. A memorial letter or a letter of agreement. After discussion or negotiations, there can be a follow-up letter that confirms the understanding and expectations. Pay attention and read the letter to see if it matches what you discussed. Respond and point out what you agree to and don't agree to. Don't just look at it and then put it off to the side. If you don't, your silence can be treated as acceptance. Don't just read the letter, check it. Again, it could be known as a memorial letter, and there's the potential for them to sneak in extra terms. Pay attention. Later, as a matter of timing, you may have somebody contact you and say, oh, we're going to send over a purchase order to you. Hey, my boss is sending a PO. Okay, take a look at it. A purchase order or a PO provides a system for the clients to track work being performed, and it gives the client an internal way of tracking that work. A PO can sometimes have different terms included with it, so be careful, read it over, and make sure that if there are any additional terms in there, you deal with it quickly so that they don't get added to the expectations. Pay attention. Speaking of paying attention, the contract itself, either the working contract or the boilerplate contract, you want to pay attention when the client provides a contract to you. Make sure again that it matches your expectations. Take the time to read and determine if all the terms match what you expect. That's if it's paper or digital. Don't just accept it. Don't just click I agree. Pay attention. Watch for extra terms. Another thing to look at are invoices. Look for additional terms and fine print that gets included. Along those lines can be additional language written on a check. There's a little space on a check for memos. If there's additional language that's been written on the check, such as paid in full, you want to address that with the client before you cash or deposit that check. By depositing the check, that may be seen as you accepting the terms, and if they paid $50 on a $500 debt and written paid in full on the check, you may have accepted the $50 as full payment. Pay attention, watch for extra terms. All right, those are some dirty tricks that you want to watch for, and again, as a matter of timing, you're looking for other documents that can add terms and conditions to your existing agreement. Okay, moving to the next question. What are the 4 core issues that a contract should cover? Copyright, payment, legal, and working relationships. That's what the author says. Copyright deals with who owns the work, how it can be used, where it can be used, when it can be used. Payment deals with when and how payment is made, who covers the costs and expenses. Is that going to be you? Is that the client? Who's responsible? Legal. This deals with where disputes can be resolved, like with arbitration or in court, who pays the costs, what types of remedies are going to be available, and what limitations are going to be on there, and what types of warranties are going to be in place. Working relationship is who does what when. It provides a description of work, a schedule for performance and payment, and the approval process. When all is said and done, who's going to own the work? These 4 core issues should be covered in your contract. Next question. What is the value of establishing policies for dealing with clients? It eliminates possible problems and conflicts ahead of time. It sets expectations and provides a negotiation point. If enforcing the policy, then it can be used to reassure the client that it's not personal and it applies to everyone. It's our policy not to start work until we receive a retainer. That helps when a client wants work but hasn't paid. It's not me. I give it to you, but it's our policy. Policy becomes the bad guy. All right, what are the 8 steps that the author suggests if your client, nice typo, gives you their contract to sign? All right, get their contract and get acquainted with it. Read it carefully. Give it the red pen treatment. Isolate problem areas, write in the margins, mark it up. Compare notes that you have from previous communications. Go to your computer and pull up emails and correspondence and any other representations that they might have made to you. Compare with the contract. One of the things you don't want to have is buyer's remorse, where you've accepted the contract and it doesn't include all the terms that you want. The parole evidence rule prevents you from going back and pulling up all of those old communications once you sign the contract. So read it before you sign it. Go through it and compare to your notes and to those other representations. Start the rewrite process. Again, mark it up, take the red pen to it, cross out and rewrite what doesn't seem reasonable to you. When you mark it up, when you make changes to it, clearly mark all of that. Now, if you're doing it on the computer, you might be able to access the document and track the changes. That could be helpful, especially if you have multiple people involved or if you have negotiations where you have many revisions. Microsoft Word and I believe Google Docs will let you track those changes and see who has changed details and wording in the documents. Once you've reviewed it and you've made changes, send it back to the client. You need to make them aware of the changes, and you need to be quick and kind. Thank them and make sure that you let them know that you're looking forward to working with them. Then sit back and wait. Prepare for the reaction. You're going to have to discuss it with them, explain why you made the changes, and if they want to put something back in, then there has to be a value for that. If they want something, they're going to have to pay for it. With any contract, you need to make sure that you determine your minimum requirements. What's going to be your walkaway price? And although this is the last in the 8 steps, it's one of the most important ones. When you're negotiating, you have to put a value on your time and on your work. At a certain point, it's not going to be worth it. Set a price where you say it's not worth it and that you're willing to walk away. And that doesn't mean that you have to be adversarial. If it doesn't work, you can tell them that. One of my favorite approaches to use is where I say, look, this has to work for you and it has to work for me. Bringing us to the next question. In negotiating terms, when should you discuss fees or costs or money or payment, and why would you do it at that particular time? You want to do that at the beginning, before you start work and after you have details. At the beginning, ask questions and then get answers. What do you have to do? How much time will it take? Is that everything? Are there any extras? And then figure out how much to charge. Next question is, before calling a lawyer to sue, what else can you do? You have lots of resources available to you. Check in with your industry, with other professionals, your mentors, friends, fellow artists, trade groups. All of those are great resources that you have available to you. Use them to help you set your expectations. Be careful though. If you share information about a client, someone may decide to help themselves to your business. Social media is public, and what you post and share can be used to help you, but also to hurt you. And the final question, what are 5 ways to create a paper trail? By paper trail, that means documentation that can be used as proof of what the expectations are in case of a misunderstanding. Keep copies of letters and emails. Take notes when you're having conversations during and after. And you can tell them, look, I'm taking notes so that way I make sure that I'm not going to forget anything or misunderstand anything. You take notes after you meet, block out some time, because while it's still fresh in your mind, you'll be able to jot those ideas down before they fade from memory. Phone calls. Same thing, you want to take notes. If it's possible to record them, I would suggest doing that. However, if you're going to record, you should get their permission. Include details like the time, the date, and what was agreed to and not. If you're recording it, make sure that you confirm details. Create deadlines. You want to use traceable communications like certified mail and emails where you'll be able to track dates when you sent information out. And separate the records. Make a special folder for any dispute, including receipts, notes, and anything else that's related. Make copies for that file, so that way you have those in addition to the originals. If you need receipts for accounting, you make copies of those, and you can put those with your client file. All right, and that's the 10 questions. Use these answers to review yours. Go through those. Again, remember the dirty tricks and timing, and put all of this stuff to good use.